like to thank somebody for the gift of the new gavel. The Senate will come to order. Mr. Majors, would you please take the roll?
Senators Aguilar, Baumgardner, Carroll, Cook, Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman.
Excused?
Heath, Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston, Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez Jimenez, Merrifield, Neville, Newell, Roberts, Scheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Tate, Todd, Ulibarri.
Excused?
Woods. Mr. President.
Here. With 33 present, 0 absent, 2 excused, we have a quorum. Would those in the chamber and our guests in the gallery please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Senator Garcia, you can be seated.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal for Thursday, March 31st, be dispensed with and the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted and the journal is approved. Committee reports.
March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services had under consideration that hearing on the following appointments. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Commission on the Aging for a term expiring when she is no longer a legislator, Senator Nancy Todd of Aurora, Colorado, serves as a representative of the Colorado State Senate, and occasioned by the resignation of Senator Lucia Guzman, Denver, Colorado, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services had under consideration that hearing on the following appointment. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Commission on the Aging for a term expiring July 1st, 2018, Stephen Michael Grant of Littleton, Colorado, serves as a Republican from the 6th Congressional District and occasioned by the resignation of Bobby Mikelo Sampson of Aurora, Colorado, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration that hearing on the following appointment. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Commission on the Aging for a term expiring July 1st, 2016, Deborah K. Bailey of Grand Junction, Colorado, serves as a Republican from the 3rd Congressional District and occasioned by the resignation of Robert H. Spuler of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration as that hearing on the following appointment. Recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Commission on the Aging for a term expiring when she is no longer a legislator, the Honorable Jessica Signa Danielson of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, serves as Democrat, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration as that hearing on the following appointment and recommends the appointment be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Commission on the Aging for a term expiring July 1st, 2019, Julianne Kozad of Milliken, Colorado, serves as a Republican from the 4th Congressional District, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Health and Human Services has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado Traumatic Brain Injury Trust Fund Board for terms expiring June 30th, 2018, Senna Harjo of Lakewood, Colorado, reappointed. William John Wasilius of Littleton, Colorado, appointed. Teresa Marie Chase of Grand Junction, Colorado, appointed. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1327 before the Committee of the Whole favorable recommendation with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following House Bill 1141 before the Committee of the Whole favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee, recommends the following Senate Bill 167 before the Committee of the Whole favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 165 be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Favorable recommendation, where the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 142 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole. Favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 109 be postponed indefinitely. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1352 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1350 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 65 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 61 be amended as follows and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1159 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1158 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 1st, 2016, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1070 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Transportation. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1155 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Education. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 148 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1006 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 67 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 154 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 155 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Senate Services.
April 1st, 2016, correctly engrossed Senate Bills 166, 168, and 171. Correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 153 and 160. Correctly revised House Bills 1005, 1060, 1088, 1109, 1306, 1323. House Joint Resolution 1012. Correctly re-revised House Bills 1027, 1215, 1224, 1262, 1263, 1264, 1265, 1271, and 1353.
Third reading bills, consent calendar. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I move that the Senate proceed out of order for purposes of consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 26.
The motion is that the Senate proceed out of order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will proceed out of order. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title of Senate Joint Resolution 26?
Senate Joint Resolution 26 by Senator Scheffel and Garcia and Representatives Lawrence and McCann concerning the designation of First Responder Appreciation Day.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move Senate Joint Resolution 26, and will not ask that it be read at length, but will ask Mr. Majors to read the portion of the resolution through page 3, line 28.
Whereas, first responders risk their own safety and personal property in the execution of their duties to protect the public on a daily basis. And whereas first responders are the first line of defense for the public against threats, both domestic and foreign. And whereas first responders stand at the ready to come to the aid of the citizens of the United States of America 24 hours a day. And whereas first responders are a vital part of our communities, not only standing ready to deal with emergencies, but also volunteering in our schools and community organizations. And whereas individuals, both career and volunteer, including police, fire, emergency medical services, search and rescue, and other organizations in the public safety sector, come together as a collective to aid the public in the event of an emergency. And whereas Colorado joins the following states in designating September 27th as First Responder Appreciation Day: Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. And whereas the Colorado General Assembly wishes to honor and support all first responders with an annual day of appreciation, now therefore be resolved by the Senate of the 70th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that we, the members of the Colorado General Assembly, designate September 27th, 2016 as First Responder Appreciation Day, that we recognize and honor the actions of first responders who performed heroic actions in the line of duty or went above and beyond the call of duty, including paramedic Robert Bob Marlin, South Metro Fire Rescue, Chief Carl Tatum, Hanover Fire Protection District, Captain Dan Hruda, Fire Inspector, Evergreen Fire Rescue, Lyman Ambulance Service, Tim Dentz, CEO, Ute Pass Regional Emergency Medical Services, Greg Foley, Grand County Search and Rescue and the Mountain Rescue Association, Captain Eric Barber, Grand County EMS, Tactical Officers Robert Wolf and Dan Carter, K-9 Officer John Ford, and Patrol Officer Mike Zamonas, Colorado Springs Police Department, Chief Jack Lee, Paradox Fire Department, Dispatcher Cindy Link, Teller County Sheriff's Office, Captain Tom Ruin, Lieutenants Chris Soup, Brian Myers, and Steve Winters, and firefighters Jeremy Coons, Jamie Gutschik, Mike Paletta, Justin Sehak, Landon Mauk, Chris Villegas, Bo Hutchinson, Andrew Lowe, Craig Stalloway, Eric Long, Cameron Halverson, and Brian Coons of the Colorado Springs Fire Department, Deputy Jeffrey Brunkow of the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Brian King, Engineer Michael DeTola, and firefighters Nicholas Coster and Christopher Rathburn of the Denver Fire Department, Dr. Robert Morrow, Walsh Ambulance Service, Officers Melissa Manzanares, Ryan Beal, Mark Donahue, and Bob Wilson, and Dispatcher Mark Derham of Golden Police Department, Deputy Stephen Pike and Christopher Caro of Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Tony Russell, Hot Sulphur Springs Fire Department, Robert Good and Janie Gotro, AMR Colorado Springs, El Paso County, EMT Nicole Richards, Kit Carson County Ambulance Service, and paramedic Chad Bauer, Ute Pass Regional Emergency Medical Services. That we recognize and honor the first responders who died in the line of duty, including Deputy Derek Geer, Mesa County Sheriff's Office, Officer Garrett Swayze, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, Trooper Jamie Jurcevics, Colorado State Patrol, Corporal Nate Kerrigan, Park County Sheriff's Office, Trooper Taylor Joseph Thifault, Colorado State Patrol, Deputy Sheriff Travis Russell, Los Animas County Sheriff's Office, and Deputy Sean Renfro, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. That we recognize and honor the first responders who were injured in the line of duty, including Officer Tony Lopez Jr., Denver Police Department, Officer Rachel Ide, Denver Police Department, Technician John Ruddy, Denver Police Department, Master Patrol Deputy Colby Martin, Park County Sheriff's Office, Captain Mark Hancock, Park County Sheriff's Office, and Trooper Clint Rushing, Colorado State Patrol. And that we recognize and honor all first responders who put their lives on the line daily to serve and protect the people of Colorado.
Please be seated. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we are arguably in the safest, most protected place on the planet right now. We stand and sit in the midst of people who have our back and our front and our flank. First responders, it's a privilege to have you here, and I welcome you to the floor of the Colorado State Senate, where we will honor all of you as first responders. Let me say at the outset, I appreciate the privilege to work with my colleague to my right. I know we'll both be making comments. As we were enjoying the breakfast provided in the West Foyer this morning, somebody came up to me and said, I saw the resolution, September 27th. What's that about? I thought to myself, interesting. I've been doing this a number of years. Time to tell the story again. On September 27th, 2006, 53-year-old Dwayne Roger Morrison walked into the Platte Canyon High School in Bailey, Colorado, and he took 6 female students hostage, He sexually assaulted them. He let 4 of the girls go before first responders, police in that case, stormed the classroom he was in. Using the remaining 2 girls as shields, Morrison shot at police, then shot and killed one of the girls, 16-year-old junior Emily Keyes, before taking his own life. As Emily was being held hostage by the gunman in the last hours of her life, she tapped out the text messages to her family, 2 of them. The first, "I love you guys." The second, "I love you guys, okay?" with a question mark. As part of the enormous outpouring of grief over the incident and support for the families involved in that incident, a motorcycle ride was planned from Columbine High School to Platte Canyon High School. And this ride planted the seed that would become the I Love You Guys Foundation, founded by Emily's parents, John Michael and Ellen Keyes, who have been guests on this floor many, many times and involved in the school safety efforts that have gone on in this building. Their mission was to restore and protect the joy of youth through educational programs and positive actions in collaboration with families and schools, communities, organizations, and governmental entities. Proceeds from that first ride were used to research and develop a standardized institutional safety plan, the Standard Response Protocol. This is being used in many schools today. With the help of administrators, safety officials, first responders, the foundation has trained and implemented that protocol in almost 79% of all Colorado schools. That day at Platte Canyon High School, there was another girl who was taken hostage. A foreign exchange student who was staying with Tim Gregg as their host. His own daughter was in Denver on the field trip that day and wasn't in school when the shooting took place. But for Mr. Gregg and the relationship and the family, really as much as a family relationship that he had with that foreign exchange student, the hostage crisis and shooting was an eye-opening experience. He said, "There have been other experiences in my life where I felt as a citizen almost helpless," Tim says. "The shooting showed me firsthand how all these different organizations come together. They're always there, but in the background, and we as citizens often don't get a chance to thank them after an incident. These people are out there every day defending us against any type of thing that might go wrong. My motivation was to try to help people proactively think about our first responders, to set aside a day to really think about them instead of just when we're in one of life's unfortunate situations." Tim has been working for several years now to create a National First Responder Appreciation Day to commemorate that September 27th event, to help the public become more aware of the issues facing first responders and how the public can help first responders do their jobs more easily. As far as Colorado, it was Governor Ritter who made Colorado the first state in the nation to proclaim a First Responder Appreciation Day on September 27th, 2010. Beginning in 2011, I had the privilege of embracing this idea and had the honor of sponsoring this resolution every year. There are now many, many states that have a First Responder Day, and I continue to work with Mr. Gregg in the hopes of making that a National Day of Appreciation at some point. Tim, thank you for all your work on this. We're going to be acknowledging a number of folks, but at the outset, colleagues, if you could help me welcome Tim Gregg and his wife. They're here in the back this morning.
Jury Leader Shuffle.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we continue with the commemoration of First Responder Day. Let me say our goal, first and foremost, and you'll hear it from me, from my colleagues, is to say thank you. It's been an honor and privilege to work on this during my tenure in this building. The memories can't help but flood in as I think about this. When I first started working on this, I remember folks coming into my office. I didn't have an office. I had a cubby hole. I have a nice table in my office now where we sit and chat about this. I had no table. But I remember hearing the various descriptions of all the different people, and they would things like, so are you bringing the hose draggers in on this? What about the lawn chair jockeys? And I learned all about the intricacies of all the different groups and their playful competitions with each other, and what a joy it's been to see them come together, to see us commemorate them as a group, and to work on this. I can assure you, first responders has been one of the highlights of my tenure in this building to work on this. It is getting to be time for me to leave this place. But I assure you, I leave you in good hands with my colleagues, including to this gentleman senator to my right, who I believe will take up the mantle and continue to honor you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll defer my comments to the end and defer to my colleague here.
Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I want to start by thanking the great senator from Parker for your leadership and advocacy, especially for the First Responder Appreciation Day. The members of the Colorado State Senate are proud to celebrate the First Responder Appreciation Day. And these individuals are both career, volunteer, including 911 dispatchers, law enforcement, fire departments, emergency medical services, rescue groups, and all other types of organizations that work in the public safety's interests. They come together as a group to protect and aid the public in the event of an emergency. And as a paramedic myself, for working for American Medical Response, I appreciate the dedication of those who provide day-to-day protection and life-saving services. Every day, first responder risks their own personal safety in the performance of their duties to protect our citizens. We are grateful for the men and women who provide empathy and humanity in all emergencies 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, regardless of the conditions or time of day. I would like to thank the families of the first responders. It is often harder for the loved ones who leave not knowing whether or not they'll be in harm's way. They leave on weekends, on holidays, on birthdays, and they miss many family events so that they can be there for us. So at this time, I would like to recognize all the first responders for their compassion, dedication, and commitment to others, especially those in difficult times.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of SGR 26. And I can't tell you what an honor it is to stand before you and give you the accolades and the honor in which you deserve. We had a situation in southern Colorado I'd like to read. This gentleman was on the resolution. Los Animas County Deputy Sheriff Travis Russell, March 1st, 2016. Deputy Travis Russell, 44, was on patrol in Trinidad when he veered across the road and into the lanes in the opposite direction on Stonewall Avenue. Russell's Ford Expedition hit an empty SUV, continued the wrong way, and rolled, according to the Colorado State Patrol. Russell was taken to the hospital, but he did not survive. CSP investigators said Russell was on duty, but was not responding to a call at the time of the crash. As a previous senator indicated, there's also families involved. And I'd like to read, this was taken right out of his obituary. Travis was a devoted husband and father, known for his witty sense of humor and playful spirit. His family was always his top priority. He is survived by his wife, Megan, daughters, Brenna and Chloe, and son, Evan, plus his brother, Tim Russell, and sister-in-law, Adrienne Russell. You know, this is somewhat of an emotional day for all of us because of the support we have in the legislature for you. You know, I was talking to a gentleman today, which you'll meet after a bit, the gentleman over here on crutches. I was talking to his dad, and it was, his dad's also a police officer. And, you know, I could not help but, you know, as a father myself, I understand what it's like to have your children in jeopardy, but I told the dad at the time of that his son was injured or shot, that there were a lot of prayers coming out of this room for this gentleman. And I cannot tell you the emotional uplifting that was to meet this young man, because he's like the rest of you, an outstanding model of our citizenry, and we do support. But I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that we do support you, and we do thank you for what you do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Holbert, Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Certainly rise in support of SJR 26. Been asked to tell you about one of the heroes who's here today. Robert Good has served as the operations supervisor for many notable events in Colorado Springs over the past several years. That includes the Waldo Canyon Fire and Black Forest Fire. He's also organized and implemented the response to many recent mass casualty incidents in Colorado Springs, most notably the shooting at Planned Parenthood. During each incident, Robert displayed an amazing ability to perform under pressure and lead teams of people through very tough and trying situations. Due to these actions, Robert will be recognized as a Star of Life in Washington, D.C. later this month. As a parent, I want to thank all first responders in the room. A few years ago, I received a message from my son's school, there's been an accident, can you come? I raced to the school and went in, and my son lay there in a pool of blood around his head, and the first responders tended to him and lifted him up as angels might, took him to the hospital, and he was fine. It was just locked knee, and he fell off a riser and hit his head. But for those of you who every day go out and find broken bodies, unconscious, that all too often do not recover, thank you for that great task that you provide for us, and the stress that it must bring to you and your families to have to endure that every day. We do not. And you are heroes in my life, in my eyes. Thank you.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I too rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26. And as you may recall, when we were talking about what things would you take with you if there were a fire, with respect to IDs, on March 15, 2016, the crew of Denver Fire Department Truck 8 saved a civilian trapped in an apartment fire right here at 1515 Grant Street. They put themselves between wind-driven flames and the unprotected victim. They had been dispatched to 1515 Grant Street for a reported multifamily structure fire. Upon arrival, companies found a 3-story apartment building with nothing showing and an odor of burnt food. Truck 8 gained entry into the fire unit and found a small kitchen fire, which they initially thought was extinguished. A suspected wind-driven fire event occurred, and conditions quickly went from light smoked to zero visibility and high heat. The crew from Truck 8 visualized the open third-floor balcony doors and moved toward them while conducting a primary search. A victim was located and removed to the balcony by Truck 8 firefighters, who sheltered the civilian from the rolling flames. Truck 4 threw their aerial and a ground ladder to the victim. Rescue 1 made entry and conducted a primary search, while engines 1, 3, and 6 advanced lines for fire attack. Winds were gusting over 20 miles per hour, and light smoke quickly turned to heavy smoke, high heat, and heavy fire. Firefighters from Truck 4 safely brought the victim to the ground while heavy flames rolled over them. An interior attack with multiple companies kept the fire to the unit of origin. The injured occupant was transported to Denver Health Medical Center. And members, we have some of these heroes with us today. We have Chief Heiss, Chief Burriman, Chief Fulton, Chief Eric Tade, Lieutenant Brian King, engineer, Michael DeTolia, firefighter, Nicholas Koster, firefighter, Christopher Rathburn, firefighter, Lieutenant Nerger, engineer Esparza, firefighter Murphy and firefighter Story, and I want to thank all of them for their heroic actions and for saving lives for us and putting themselves out on the line every day.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, one of the heroes we have here today is Ms. Janae Gautreaux. She's a current AMR Colorado Springs, El Paso County Mark Bruning Award recipient. Janae received this award as she consistently demonstrates the values, work ethic, dedication, and passion that I think all of us in here strive to attain, and we're inspired when we see that in folks throughout our communities. Janae demonstrates a commitment to providing the utmost in patient care with consistent knowledge of current practices and treatments, as well as a soothing bedside manner. And I know from experience how much this matters. My now 5-year-old daughter, Ellis, up until she was about 2, if she got crying enough, she would cry and hold her breath. And I remember several times just turning just blue as a blueberry. She wouldn't breathe, and finally she'd start breathing again. And multiple times we had folks from AMR in Colorado Springs to our house, to my in-laws' house where we were, and just that soothing kind of presence. We're here, we're right with you, we'll take care of things. I think we all know, we all have these personal experiences of how much of a difference that makes and how much that manner, that presence in a crisis situation matters, and Janae has that. Janae is highly regarded not only by our coworkers, but leadership, communications, personnel, and partnering agencies, as well as hospital staff. And for these reasons, Janae was recognized for outstanding accomplishments and dedication to her profession. We're honored to have her here today.
Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise in support of my friends here today who I so deeply respect, and those who are in my district, the South Metro and West Metro and Littleton and DPD now covering for Sheridan, all of you first responders out there who have helped so many of us on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. I have no idea what it's like to actually be a first responder. I never will. But I have been a second responder, and I've worked very closely with the second responders in my community through the CERT program, for instance, and we have quite a healthy one in Littleton and Inglewood. And I go to each one of their trainings and hear and meet the second responders who are being trained to support you. Most of you know my former husband was a first responder, so I do remember what it's like to be the wife of, a family member of, and know how important each one of your family members is to you, and knowing that they are, they're not knowing if you're going to be coming home at night, but that they keep a warm home for you when you return. One of the things that I did want to cover was that we've heard how much you support us and how much you are going out there day to day, every day, protecting us and wrapping your arms around us. One of the unique things about first responders is their unique relationship with death and with suicide. You see people die in your job. You see people injured in your job. And I think it was my colleague from Douglas County saying the broken bodies. Seeing that on a day-to-day basis, I just cannot imagine what that is like for you. But we owe it to you to wrap our arms around you and to make sure that you are protected and safe as best as we can when it comes to the best public policy that we make in this building to have the best support services available to you, also as community members to wrap our arms around you in making sure that you are welcome wherever you are in the community and that you are supported in the communities and honored and respected in the communities. So some of you know I serve on the Suicide Prevention Commission, and one of the things that we have discovered is a high rate of suicide when it comes to first responders. So what I want you to know is some of us on the commission, in the Office of Suicide Prevention, and in the nonprofit communities across the state, we are working on your particular population to find out how we can support you in self-care, in mental health services, and in nurturing protective factors that can support you. So I want you to know that standing here today, I support you and honor you, and making sure that I will do everything that I can, even beyond this building, to make sure that you feel that you have arms around you. Thank you for your selfless service.
Senator Stedman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I also rise in support of the resolution and to honor and appreciate all of the first responders who are here. I have been asked to share with you a story that happened here in Denver just a few short months ago, and it's one I think many of us are aware of. We saw quite a bit of coverage of this incident in the news media, and I think we're very aware of the injuries and the sacrifice made by Denver police officer Sergeant Tony Lopez Jr., who's with us here this morning with his wife and his parents. The story begins with a routine traffic stop. It was a routine traffic stop that wasn't supposed to be an example of heroism or bravery. It wasn't supposed to end like it did, and yet this, I think, illustrates how the work of our police officers takes such a strange turn sometimes when an event that is supposed to be routine, as pulling over a car near Federal Boulevard here in Denver, turned into a life-threatening incident. It was December 8th, 2015, just 4 months ago, when Sergeant Lopez made this routine traffic stop near 37th and Federal Boulevard. And as he was pulling over that car and approaching, a suspect in the vehicle opened fire, and then the vehicle sped off. Sergeant Lopez was shot multiple times in the arms and legs. Trauma surgeons say there are really 2 reasons that he survived this incident, and one of which was his bulletproof vest that actually prevented a couple of rounds from hitting him that would have likely proven fatal. The other reason Sergeant Lopez survived was a tourniquet, and I think we've heard a lot about the value and importance of understanding how tourniquets are able to prevent someone from bleeding out and dying in a shooting incident like this. For indeed, Sergeant Lopez almost died that day, but he is now recovering. His recovery has been slow. He has some more progress to go before he will return to active duty. He has endured 3 surgeries. He still has bullets in his legs. He still has painful wounds and scars throughout his body. He spends hours in physical therapy each week, and that continues. And it continues because this officer, this sergeant in the Denver Police Force, wants very much to return to work. And we have every confidence that he will. Sergeant Lopez has been with the Denver Police Department since 2008. He has served with distinction and with honor. He was honored just last year for helping a family whose 4-year-old daughter actually called 911 when her mother was suffering a medical emergency, and Sergeant Lopez was one of the first responders to come upon that scene. He has undoubtedly engaged in routine traffic stops and routine acts of bravery throughout his career, and we expect that you will continue to do that as soon as you're back to work, Sergeant. Today, Sergeant Lopez is here with his wife, Kristen, and they, along with, they're also here with their parent, or Sergeant Lopez's parents. His father happens to be Commander Lopez for Denver Denver Police Department, and his wife Maggie is here as well, and we welcome them to the chamber and thank them very much for their presence. The silver lining to this story, and I think there are at least a couple, is that Tony Jr., rather, and his wife Kristen are expecting a child who will be born shortly here in May. This will be a baby boy who they have already decided they will name Tony Lopez III. And so we have two and a half, almost 3 generations of the family with us today. And to the Lopez family, thank you very much for your service to the citizens here in the city and county of Denver. Thank you very much for being one of these first responders who every day puts your life on the line, even for routine traffic stops. We appreciate that very much, and we're very glad you're here with us. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise in support of the resolution. Thank you, senators, and thank you, first responders, for being here. I too am going to share a story of a first responder. In 2015, Bob Marlin of South Metro Fire Rescue was posthumously recognized with the 2015 C.J. Schanneberger Lifetime Achievement Award by the Emergency Medical Services Association of Colorado and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. During his career, which spanned more than 4 decades, Bob Marlin was a mentor and leader for thousands of EMS professionals. Bob served in many EMS capacities over the past 40 years, starting as an EMT in 1974. He then graduated from the Denver General St. Anthony's Hospital Paramedic Class Number 1. He served 14 years as a paramedic with Denver General Hospital Paramedic Division, 9 as the Chief of Paramedics, the youngest to do so. He went on to serve as an EMS educator for Centura Health, West Metro Fire Rescue, and the EMS Quality Management Coordinator at South Metro Fire Rescue. During his entire career, right up to the time of his death, he also served his local community as a volunteer paramedic at Clear Creek EMS. According to Rick Lewis, a coworker at South Metro, Bob never let off the gas. It did not matter in which capacity he worked or which hat Bob was wearing at the moment. Bob applied the same high level of energy to committee work and administrative duties as he did to the patient care. Simply put, Bob could be counted on. Throughout his storied career, Bob made numerous contributions to the profession, including the deployment of the nation's first paramedic field instructor program, his collaboration on several of Colorado's regional disaster plans, and his work on an innovative quality management system. We've heard a lot about first responses, and I think it's also important that we recognize how much we appreciate all the planning activities that go on, all the contingency plans, disaster response planning, all those planning activities that happen with great diligence. We appreciate that. Today, we are joined in the chamber by South Metro Fire Rescue's Fire Chief Bob Baker, Fire Marshal Anthony Valdez, and Bob's daughter Cameron. Please welcome them.
Senator John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it is an extreme honor to be able to have one of my very own here today, Dan Hirota. He's here in the back room. He's a fire inspector, and today, April 1st, 2016, will be Dan Hirota's last day of volunteer firefighting duty. 32 years as a volunteer firefighter, he will be retiring from the Wheat Ridge Fire Department. He has had the opportunity to work on the Fairmount Fire Department, the Arvada Fire Department, Leesville, Louisiana Fire Department, and will end his volunteer firefighting career with the Wheat Ridge Fire Department, the city, I might add, where he was born. We all stay in Wheat Ridge. Dan said he can't think of a more fitting way to spend his last duty day than on the grounds of the state capitol, surrounded by the many brothers and sisters from the disciplines of emergency services that he has had the privilege to have worked for so many years, and with the leaders of this state who represent the people he has had the honor to have served. Dan's son, Jonathan, is also with him today, who is in the training program to become a firefighter just like his dad, and he is with him in the chamber today. Thank you so much for being with us today. It means a lot. And then on a personal note, I also want to say thank you to all of the first responders, having been a first pager victim advocate for many years. It's just the least I can do to say thank you to all of you. As we were entering the scenes, we knew we could be confident that you had secured everything and that we were okay to be there. And if the perpetrator was at large, you were right there to protect us as we continued doing our job. It's hard to do what you do, and you have to do it with such stoic behaviors all the time when, as many people have said, when people are running out, you're running in. And having seen that firsthand, I just cannot say thank you enough for what you do for these communities. And I know that I can speak on behalf of all of the victim advocates that you mean so much to our communities, and I want to thank you so much for what you all do.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26. And I'm going to recognize first responder that's here this morning. But before I do that, I want to say that on the first floor this morning, when I was down there talking to many of you, they were thanking us for doing this for them. And I said, no, thank you for what you do for us every day, what you do. It's important to us that you do that. It's an honor for us to do this for you. The sacrifice that you make, the sacrifice that your families make so you can do this job. Because as you heard earlier, when you go out, you don't know if you're going to come back. The families don't know if you're going to come back. And there's been many times that those family members don't come back. So we all, I personally, thank all of you for what you do. And I wanted to speak about one of the first responders that was here today, Captain Erich Barber, serving Grand County EMS. Captain Barber is part of an EMS practitioner mental health and well-being committee. They won the 2016 James O. Page Leadership Award, one of the most coveted awards in the emergency medical services profession. Their work centers around suicide prevention among first responders. The actions of this committee that they take on such a noble cause is making a difference today and into the future to prevent the loss of EMS professionals from post-traumatic stress built up from the daily things that they see, the horrific things that they see, the images that they encounter as EMS and paramedics. Again, I thank you spending time in law enforcement, and I've talked about this before. You put that uniform on, and you take it off, but you never take it off. It's always there. You always wear it, 24/7. Doesn't matter if you're off, doesn't matter if you're on vacation. If the call comes, you always run to that disaster, that fire, that crime scene. And we thank each and every one of you for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us today is Ms. Cindy Link, Teller County Sheriff Dispatcher. She is entering her 14th year with Teller County Sheriff's Department as a dispatcher. As a trainer, she teaches other dispatchers to avoid thinking or even saying, "I'm just a dispatcher," but to rather say with pride, "I am a dispatcher." The Dispatch Center is the hub of emergency services, and dispatchers are the first responders who can make a difference in someone's life. Cindy demonstrates her dedication to the dispatch profession daily with professionalism and knowledge for all the calls she receives. Whether a barking dog complaint or a person not breathing, she will process the call using the same skills with empathy in a calm and assured manner. A dispatcher needs the ability to multitask and stay organized. Cindy Link believes in teamwork, not only at her agency, but with neighboring agencies. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my absolute honor to be able to talk about a deputy who just passed away a month and a half ago in Mesa County. He was an absolute hero, Deputy Derek Gear, who was only 40 years old, was wounded mortally on February 8th, 2016. He was a 15-year deputy for the Mesa County Sheriff's Department. It was a huge loss to our community, huge loss to the state of Colorado, obviously a huge loss to his family. The most amazing thing that I've learned since this incident took place was the conditions in which Deputy Gear sacrificed his life. He approached a 17-year-old suspect who had been called in with a gun. The report came in that there was a young man with a gun. He was very close to a school. Deputy Gear, in my opinion, and many others, had the opportunity to probably neutralize this person, but he chose to talk to him, apparently. This didn't last very long, obviously, and Deputy Gear gave his life. Other deputies did arrive quickly enough to chase the suspect down and stop him. But what it means to me is that knowing that all of you here are willing to do something that brave, not to just pull a gun and immediately take out a suspect when you know you can, but that split-second decision is something you have to make. I don't know that I could do that, but it is absolutely amazing to me that you are able to take those situations and have enough belief in yourselves to make the right decision. God bless all of you, and thank you so much for what you do.
Is there further discussion? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's actually an honor to stand up here and recognize an ambulance service from Eastern Colorado. an ambulance service that was named the 2015 Ambulance Service of the Year Award by the Emergency Medical Services Association of Colorado and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. In the Eastern Plains, where we struggle for health care, where we struggle to get folks medical care, where if it wasn't for these folks, they'd have to drive 40, 50, 60 minutes to get to the next facility. For 15 and 20 years, the dedicated people staffed the volunteer, understand the volunteer basic life support ambulance service. This ambulance service, ladies and gentlemen, is the Lyman Ambulance Service. They respond to not a lot like they do in Denver here, but 550, 600 emergency calls annually. And understand the town of Lyman is not a large town. It's actually a very small town, but it intersects that very busy highway, Highway 71, between Last Chance and Pumpkin Center. And of course, I-70, which has over 50,000 people drive through that every single day. And these are the folks that take this large geographical area and they cover it. Over the past 5 years, the town and the service director have made a concerted effort to elevate the level of service to the community and travelers in eastern Colorado. The service now operates 4 advanced life support licensed ambulance staffed by 4 ALS professionals. Lyman Ambulance is a true example of an outstanding service and what it means by helping out your neighbors. They have gone above and beyond the call of duty. Lyman Ambulance Service is the only full-time ALS service in that huge, large geographical area, and they take that responsibility seriously as they strive to support the facilities, agencies, and patients in eastern Colorado. Their commitment to public service goes beyond those that are expected. Mr. President, we have with us the director and the deputy director, Director Ron Hanley, Deputy Director Mike Clark, I believe are here today. And I want to thank them for taking a small ambulance service and making it the Ambulance Service of the Year. Thank you, Lyman, for your help on the Eastern Plains. Ron and Mike, would you please stand up so I can recognize you?
Is there further discussion? Senator Woods?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26 this morning, and I have the privilege of telling a story. It involves a Golden Police Department and Officer Ryan Beal, who's here with us today. Back on September 8th of 2015, Officer Ryan Beal discovered a vehicle that had previously been involved in a pursuit where a Colorado State Patrol trooper's vehicle had been intentionally hit by the suspect driver. The pursuit was terminated in downtown Golden, and the vehicle was located in the driveway of 1020th Street. The suspect of the vehicle fled the area, but was believed to be contained within a hastily set perimeter. While officers were starting to search for the suspect, they noticed they were notified that a female had barricaded herself inside her bedroom after discovering an unknown male had broken into her residence. The male had seen the female and ordered her not to call the police before she was able to barricade herself in her room. The residence was located on the edge of the perimeter and was about a 2-block distance from the suspect's vehicle. Officer Beal, with Deputy Pike and Deputy Caro with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, approached the house and the bedroom window where the female was located. They were able to tear out the window screen and quickly remove the female from the house while protecting her with their bodies and their weapons. Once the female was safely away from the residence, the immediacy of the situation changed, allowing for the SWAT team to arrive and initiate a well-planned operation. Officer Beal, Deputy Pike, and Deputy Caro persevered in accomplishing the mission to rescue a potential hostage, possibly saving her life, from a violent felon who may have been armed. They demonstrated remarkable courage while exposing themselves to significant personal risk while approaching the window and safely rescuing the hostage. We thank you, Officer Beal, for your bravery. As a parent and as a nana, I have loved ones, children and grandchildren, on the highways and byways of the Front Range, on the playgrounds and in their schools of the Front Range, and I'm deeply grateful to those of you who serve. As a daughter of an 83-year-old who lives in Steamboat Springs, I am deeply grateful for the Routt County first responders who are in the gallery over my right shoulder for the protection that they provide for him. So I thank you all for being here. May God bless each and every one of you for the sacrifices you make. May God bless your families for the sacrifices they make as well.
Is there further discussion? Senator Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. On July 20th, 2012, many of us will never forget the incident that we woke up to on the Aurora movie theater shooting that happened. On that day, it was mere minutes from when that started until we had first responders on the ground at that scene. Many of the incidents that folks respond to don't make the headlines, and I want to give a special shout out to all the law enforcement in Aurora, not only for the work they did that day, but the work they do every day that we don't always hear about in the headlines. I want to make a special note to personally add my thanks to nurses and emergency room doctors who are also part of the first response team from the very beginning of dispatch to those that are first at the scene and those that spend their days and their time saving lives. If you really think about it, how often do you not really even have the benefit of full information when someone's showing up at the scene and having to assess anything from A to Z in mere moments with incomplete information, with not only your life on the line and at risk, but being able to make smart, good choices with incomplete information often that can have life and death consequences. The folks that we are honoring here today are there not only when incidents like the Aurora movie theater shooting happen, but on responding with hazardous materials or with fires, large or small, for injuries that happen at home, at the workplace, or on our roads, traveling from one place to the other. Everyday incidents that don't always make the news. I had a colleague that mentioned suicide. Just the scope of the things that people have to be ready to respond to is really staggering. Substance abuse, saving people's lives on overdose, sometimes being the first one to crack a crime or uncover a ring on human trafficking, being there to detect or respond or intervene in cases of child abuse or domestic violence, everything that ranges from accidents to the clumsy to the unlucky to the most malicious and vicious of criminal activities. It is with this in mind that I want to give particular thanks to the first responders that are in Aurora and around the entire state for what you do for all of us every day. Thank you for being here.
Is there further discussion? Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26, and I would like to read about two officers from the Golden Police Department, Officer Bob Wilson and Officer Mark Donahue, and I believe he's here with his wife Libby here today. On July 14th, 2015, Officers Wilson and Donahue responded to the Safeway parking lot to investigate a physical disturbance. While investigating a very physical fight between a mother and daughter, another daughter, holding a 6-month-old baby, started screaming that the baby was not breathing. Officer Donahue called medical while Officer Wilson began performing back blows to potentially dislodge anything that might have been in the baby's mouth. The baby still was not breathing. He was able to do an inspection and saw that the baby had a purple item in the back of the mouth and in the throat of the young baby, and he gently removed that item. A short time later, the baby began to breathe. These two officers performed their duties in an alert and prompt manner that took them from a criminal investigation into a life-saving effort, and many of you do that every single day. For their prompt and alert actions that resulted in saving a life, a human life, Officer Mike Donahue and Officer Bob Wilson were awarded the Golden Police Department's Life Saving Award. I know that many people in all of our jurisdictions across the state do this on a daily basis, so for that we thank you. You make our communities safer by being active participants, volunteering your time when you're not working your profession, and being leaders in the community by coaching and doing other things for the youth. So for that, we thank you. Colorado is blessed to have you serving all of us. The fact that you all try to educate our young children and our families in safety, whether it's fire safety or safety within their homes, delivering life when that is required, helping someone pass through the life if that is also required, performing emergency medical services, going into structures where there are fires, not knowing if those structures are stable, and that's for all of our responders that go. For doing vehicle extractions when people are pinned in vehicles after accidents. For doing the water rescues that you do and saving the lives of folks that inadvertently get onto ponds or lakes or rivers. We thank you. For helping other jurisdictions whenever you are called upon to assist. We thank you. For helping with wildland fires and floods that we have. You all rally around whenever you are called, and for that, we thank you. When you leave each and every day, I would imagine that both you and your families hope it will be a good day. Often you are first responders, see things that the rest of us do not do. And you go into whatever situation it requires without thought and safety when you're trying to rescue someone else. But you do it and you have teams. And for the teamwork that is involved, thank you. What I wanted to close with is that often each one of you, in whatever first responder profession you have chosen, will go into a situation that seemingly is something that should be of a simple nature, and often it can turn into something that is not a simple nature and can be much more involved. So for that, we thank you, and I would like to thank each and every one of you and the 3 jurisdictions within my district for all that you do every day to make sure that Coloradoans are safe. Be safe out there.
Is there further discussion? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26. Colleagues, the work of first responders doesn't start and end with the shift duty. And I have two examples of people, of course, who went above and beyond and actually responded even while they weren't at work, because all of us in this room know that first responders and those that are dedicated to this profession are called upon when they see a problem, not from 9 to 5 or the shift work. One of those colleagues, of course, cannot be with us today, and we honored Sergeant Sean Renfro several weeks ago, but I believe that it's time to re-honor him. Sean was a 15-year veteran of the sergeant of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. He passed away on January 3rd, 2015, while helping others with an accident that happened, of course, snowy weather. He was a beloved dad, active dad, coach, devoted and loving husband, son, father, and friend. And of course, we heard that day about his quick wit and sharp mind and his unrelenting sarcasm, which was loved by many, but possibly not by all, and his warm personality. Because sometimes I think we look at the badge or the rank and we forget about the person behind it, and we should never do that. He enjoyed being outdoors, hunting, competing in the Scottish Highland Games. He had a love for writing. He was a man of strong faith. We should never forget Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Sean served his department well, he served his family well, and he served God well. And he's not with us today, but he's with the higher source. And also I want to recognize somebody who is with us today, Officer Melissa Manzanares of the Golden Police Department. On her way into work, she witnessed a head-on crash as she was driving. She pulled up, and one car burst into flames. She stopped a trucker and asked for a fire extinguisher or something to break the window out. Dressed in her civilian clothes, and actually she had flip-flops on at the time, the window was broken out. Melissa and some other citizens tried desperately to extricate the driver, but couldn't get to him. As a result, of course, she suffered a lot of small shards of glass in the bottom of her feet, which she picked up as a result of being so close to the car when someone else broke out the window. She realized that there was nothing more which could be done to get the driver out, and she made the very difficult decision that only people in this situation would know, and began backing everyone else away from the fire to prevent further injuries. Officer Manzanares was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, which recognizes a member that is exposed to operational risk or danger for a life-saving event, an attempted life-saving act, which extraordinary efforts were used. Melissa put herself in harm's way to try and save that man from a burning motor vehicle. Officer Manzanares, if you could please stand up so we could recognize you.
Senator Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to come to the well this morning. I thought there were so many eloquent stories and thank yous, and then I thought of what the majority leader said, which is, because this is a story that I had told before, and so I thought didn't need to tell this story again, and then I thought of the majority leader's comments about how quickly and easy it is for us to forget, and how important it is to be our job to carry the stories on of those that we lost, and how profound the gift is to be able to have the opportunity to say thank you at this microphone to the folks that are here. And this is also my last session, so I didn't want to miss the chance to say thank you one more time. And so my story, my neighborhood, my hero is a woman that many of you probably know is an officer named Selena Hollis. who was a Denver police officer, a 32-year-old woman, single mom, 12-year-old daughter, who, when she wasn't on duty, would spend her extra shifts doing security at Denver Jazz in the Park, in City Park, and was there one Sunday night 4 years ago when a fight broke out between a couple of gang members, and she stepped in to intervene in that fight, and one of them pulled out a gun and shot her in the head. And she died that night at Jazz in the Park while the rest of us ran home to safety. And so I wrote that night this letter to her family that I thought I would read one last time to the public servants that are here to be honored. I had to work Sunday, and I hate working weekends. Sundays are supposed to be family time, church and museums and brunches and the pool and monster games in the basement. But that is part of being a public servant, I suppose. Sometimes you work Sundays. So around 4 p.m., I got in my car and drove up to Lafayette to talk to some people about bills in the legislature. The event ran late, so I was late to meet my boys and my wife for our special dinner and a movie trip to see the movie Brave, which was a story about a young woman unafraid to stare down evil, to make her own way in the world, and to protect her own family. There was a big mean bear in the movie. My son got scared and crawled into my lap a couple times and snuggled his face into my chest. After that, I came home and put my boys in bed, and when I tucked little Emmett in, I lay down next to him, and he put both of his arms around my neck in the dark and said, "Daddy, I want you to stay here forever." I wanted to too. I almost cried, but instead I held him a little while until he fell asleep and then walked out to sit with my wife. She was crying too, but about something else. About 4 o'clock today, another public servant left her family and drove to work. The same work she had done every day on Sunday for 7 years. She said goodbye to her 12-year-old daughter and kissed her and probably told her she would be at home to tuck her in at night. While my little Emmett was hiding from the scary bear in the movie, this public servant was running into a real-life den of bears to make sure that everybody else was safe. And while she was looking out for my friends and neighbors trying to enjoy some jazz in the park, they shot her in the head. While I lay in bed cradling my son, she lay on a gurney in Denver General with a team of doctors cradling her head. And I thought of her daughter, and the nights that she'll be afraid, and the nights that she'll want her mommy to stay with her forever. And I thought of her being asleep right now, and at the moment when she wakes up tomorrow morning, waiting for her mom to walk into her bedroom and with her sleepy eyes creep open and ask if today is a school day or if she's made breakfast. And someone else will have to be there to hold her little head and tell her that mommy isn't making breakfast. Not this morning or ever again. That mommy won't be at the next soccer game or at band practice the next time she skins a knee or wakes up with a night where mommy will never be there. She won't be there to console her through her first broken heart, to help her straighten her prom dress, or to help her pick out a college. She won't be there to do a load of laundry over Christmas break, or to be there to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. To be the first teacher when she holds her own little baby in her hands and wonders how to keep this little thing safe from a big and dangerous world. I am proud to call myself a public servant. But on days like today, that feels like saying that both Shakespeare and I are writers. Some give their time, and some give their lives. I will be waiting in my boys' rooms Monday morning when they wake up, waiting to tell them that it is a school day, that I brought them some milk, that mommy is making breakfast, that I will be at their next soccer game, and that in real life we don't have to be afraid of big bad bears, because some public servants are willing to give their lives to make sure that I can stay here forever on those nights when my kids need me the most. Thank you so much for your service.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues, first responders, and guests. I also rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26. I'll try and be brief. Being from Fort Collins and Larimer County, First of all, I want to express my genuine appreciation for all of the good public servants in that part of the state, Fort Collins PD, Poudre Fire Authority, the volunteer fire districts, Risk Canyon, Poudre Canyon, I believe Glacier Meadows, and to thank them for their day-to-day service, but certainly back in 2012 when we had the High Park fire in Larimer County that burned approximately 85,000 acres, and the brave and courageous work of all the various firefighters to protect lives and protect property. And then, of course, in September of 2013, the floods that were, I would say, of historic proportions, and the good work and the collaboration that folks did to make sure that people were safe. I also want to express my appreciation for the Larimer County Sheriff's Department. Now, I know that we are honoring you all here that are gathered, all of the great people in the state of Colorado, but I think it's appropriate to perhaps express our appreciation. No, I know it's appropriate to all of the first responders around the country. And I'm reminded that, so we don't forget, I happened to be in New York City on September 11th, 2001, and I happened to witness the attacks on the World Trade Center towers, and I bet we can all agree that that changed the course of history, that horrible, violent tragedy. And we know that there was incredible bravery that was demonstrated by NYPD, by New York Fire Department, firefighters. It was just unbelievable, and we give thanks for that. Last year I was in New York visiting family and had the opportunity to go to the Freedom Plaza. And if you've never been there, I would encourage you to go the next time you visit New York City. It's one of the most amazing places. And part of the Freedom Plaza is that they have a museum. And it's a museum that's downstairs, basically that served as the foundation for the World Trade Center towers. And in this museum, they have the most extraordinary audio and visual images. They have fire trucks that were scorched as a result of what occurred. And I would encourage you to visit that. And on my phone here, I can't really display it, but one of the things that is most powerful, there is an art display. I think it's made out of bronze, and it has these tremendous images of firefighters, but it says basically, dedicated to those who fell and to those who carry on. And for that, first responders, I'm very grateful for your continued public service, and I thank you.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm old enough that in growing up in our household, my father was both a volunteer firefighter and rescue squad, and the old part is in reference to the plectron that was on top of the refrigerator in our kitchen, and when that plectron would go off, we all knew in my small town somebody was in trouble. So my father would head out the door and join other volunteers who would attempt to address the challenge, whatever it might be. But this morning I want to particularly mention Tim Dienst, who's joined us in the back. Tim is the Ute Pass Regional Emergency Medical Services CEO, and he's been a leader in national and Colorado advocacy for EMS agencies. In addition to his success creating the Ute Pass Regional Health Services District, he is president of the Colorado EMS Chiefs, Managers, and Directors section of the Emergency Medical Services Association of Colorado, and he chairs its advocacy committee. Many of you may recognize Tim. He is often here with us organizing the annual EMS Day at the Capitol. He routinely stops by to advise legislators on issues vital to EMS, and it's so important to have that view from those who are in the trenches and on the streets. Earlier this year, the National Association of EMTs recognized him for his outstanding leadership on the EMS field bill in the U.S. Congress. He has been instrumental in securing sponsorship of the bill, staying with it through the various iterations and setbacks over the year. He did all this while he was running a new funding initiative in his own district, which we know funding is always a challenge. So we're honored to recognize Tim for his passion, energy, and dedication advocating for EMS. EMS is a critical component of our nation and community safety net, and proudly, he is serving alongside rescue, fire, and law enforcement and professionals. So please recognize Tim.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's also my honor to recognize somebody else who's here with us today, and that's Paul Cook. After 35 years of service to the people of Colorado, Director Paul Cook, who is the director of Colorado Division of Fire Safety, announced he'd soon be retiring from the Division of Fire Prevention and Control, and that'll be later this month. During Paul's 41-year career in fire and emergency services, he has served in volunteer, career, and combination departments at all levels of government. He began his career as a volunteer firefighter and emergency medical technician in upstate New York before enlisting and serving 6.5 years as a medic in the U.S. Army. Paul's also been fire chief and worked with the Colorado legislature as the chair of the Colorado State Fire Chiefs Association's Legislative Committee. As a result, Paul has been actively involved in virtually every piece of legislation affecting the Colorado Fire Service since the mid-1980s. In the 10 years that I have been here, and unfortunately Paul was here, I'm not spotting him now, but I want you to know that the entire time I've been here, Paul has been such a strong advocate. He has been incredibly accessible, professional, and competent in developing important public policy affecting the public safety of every Coloradan. So I wanted to thank him personally because he has given so much, and I'm sorry that he left because he's been here the whole time. He probably had to go to the other chamber. But when you see Paul, I just want you to know that Paul Cook, in his retirement, it's well-deserved, but we will miss him very, very much in the state of Colorado. And I, as one who's been on the Wildfire Matters Committee, had relied on him so heavily for, again, bringing that in the trenches viewpoint. The last thank you I have, but I could go on forever, and we all are, but I want to, on a personal level, say that sheriffs and sheriff deputies hold a special place in my heart. I've told the story in 2002 with the Missionary Ridge Fire. We had in my home, my family, my 2 kids who were teenagers, early teenagers at the time. We were on pre-evacuation as the Missionary Ridge Fire was building and building, and they continued to battle it on a regular basis. I worked in town, and so even as the smoke built up every day and every night, we'd try to go to sleep in the smell of that smoke, which is on a human instinct level, you're not supposed to be where there is that kind of smell of smoke. But I was in town one day, and all of a sudden I got word from my neighbor who runs the radio communications, and I'm glad that was mentioned earlier. Those who are doing the radio communications and dispatch are critical to all of this working well. But my neighbor came across and said, "You better get home because they've just put out the call that you're moving from pre-evac to evacuation." Well, it was particularly stressful for me because my 13-year-old son was at home, and I had been talking to him on the phone, and he was telling me about the helicopters who were flying so many and so close to our house that the windows in our home were shaking. And he said, "Mom, I've got to go." And I said, "You can't." And he said, "I'm going to get on an ATV and I'll get out of here." That is pretty scary as a parent. And so I said, "You can't do that." I got in my car and I got in tried to get up to the house, the sheriff's department had stopped all cars from going up into our subdivision, which made complete sense. But as a mother, you're not really even thinking very sensibly. So I said, I'll stop my car, but you can't stop me from getting out of my car, and I'm going to run up through the woods and get to my home. And the sheriff's deputy, and it was mentioned earlier, the importance of the calm that people who are first responders have is really good, because there was no calm in me whatsoever. And I was going to go up that hill, and I didn't care who was going to try and stop me. But the sheriff's deputy tucked me in off the ledge and said, "We will get there. We will get your son out of the house." And in fact, they did. And I just want to say that, again, there's nothing like a parent's love for their child, that they will do anything to save them. But when you have people like the sheriff's deputy who made sure that my son was out of harm's way, that is so, it's also the wonderful stories. We know that there are so many difficult stories as well, but today I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's emergency medical services, law enforcement, firefighters. You are what makes it possible for us to sleep at night. Thank you for being with us in those times of need. I am so appreciative of this day and this time to be able to say thank you to all of you.
Colleagues, let's stand and recognize Paul Cook for his lifetime of service that was articulated by Senator Roberts. I know he had to get to the other chamber, but this is recorded. Paul, thank you. Is there further discussion? Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's easy for me to recognize Tim Dietz because we usually spend Christmases and birthdays together. His sister is my sister-in-law. So we often get together, easy to recognize here and at home. I am in a district in Colorado Springs, as you know, that's been really drastically hit by emergencies. You can imagine the terror when first responders get to a home where the home is fully engulfed in flames and you don't know the status of the people there. You don't know the status of their pets. You don't know the status of really anything going on. But imagine being first responder and seeing a pyronimbus cloud coming into your city and 356 homes on fire. That's when most people would just lose hope. But yet our first responders drew the line, and you probably know the stories, but I was, of course, listening to this on the whole procedure on the tactical radios, which I listen to in these emergencies. My local fire district here, fire departments, especially Station 9, Station 18 in Colorado Springs, took most of the brunt of that. We have a very unique organization called the Catamount Fire Team, which actually works as employees of the Colorado Springs utilities, which are both trained volunteer firefighters, and I would call them combat engineers, who had to go into that conflagration to turn on the water in the water tanks so they could fight that fire. And when had to go right to the source of the fire, coming down the front range in order to enable the other firefighters to do their job. I've had to listen to those tactical radio broadcasts for many hours, most recently on literally Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, November 27th, when a maniacal shooter attacked the Planned Parenthood clinic, again in my neighborhood. It's within a couple hundred feet to 2 doctors' offices that I go to. A couple hundred feet from a Japanese restaurant I go to. It's the shopping center where we get our groceries. As a matter of fact, I called the doctors actually during this incident to see how they were doing, because they were locked down, not even able to go out of their offices. And listening to those tactical radios for hours gives you an idea of the intricacy, the patience, the heroism of the operations that have to be literally done on the fly, but done in a structured way to save lives and to extract victims. Right now, there's a legal gag order on a lot of those details in that shooting, and that's restricted our officials from really releasing many details about those events. But fire department operations have become an iconic symbol of what really happened. Almost any news stories you'll see file photos of our first responders, especially our fire department, our ambulance services, doing their jobs, recorded on film. As they were ferrying the injured people away from the really hot zones of gunfire. Lieutenant Brian Myers of the Colorado Springs Fire Department and firefighters Bo Hutchinson, Andrew Lowe, Craig Stalloway, Eric Long, and Cameron Halverson were members of the Tactical Emergency Medical Support Team who extracted victims using armored vehicles. By placing themselves in the line of fire, they were able to save lives by giving immediate treatment until the victims could be transferred to the waiting EMS facilities and EMS staff. In that incident, 3 people were killed and 9 others were wounded after the hours-long standoff. I believe Battalion Chief Troy Branham, Lieutenant Brian Myers, and firefighter Eric Long are attending with us this morning, but I haven't been able to see you. So if you are here, if you can wave your hands, or over here, okay, please stand and please recognize our emergency firefighters from Colorado Springs.
Is there further discussion? Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President, and God bless our first responders and K-9 units. I'm here this morning to talk about an angel among us. Trooper Taylor Thifault, Colorado State Patrol, May 23rd, 2015. State Trooper Taylor Thifault was struck and killed by a vehicle that was fleeing from other officers. Trooper Thifault was riding along with a trooper as part of his required training and was at the scene of an unrelated vehicle crash on Colorado Highway 66 near Weld County Road 1. As they conducted their accident investigation, a vehicle pursuit approached their location. The trooper and Trooper Thifault were deploying stop sticks when the offender swerved and struck both of them with his vehicle. Trooper Thifault was killed and the trooper was critically injured. Trooper Thifault was a U.S. Army veteran and had served with the Colorado State Patrol for several weeks. he was posthumously promoted to the rank of trooper from the rank of cadet. Rest in peace, Trooper Thifault. We so appreciate your continued vigilance in watching over us all. Thank you all for being here. It is such an honor. We are not often graced with people that we love as much as you. Thank you for your continued work and selfless devotion to all of us here in the state of Colorado.
Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for all those that are here that we're honoring today and those that cannot be here. It's our privilege to be able to do this, and we thank you for your presence here and for us to be able to do this for you personally and certainly symbolically through this Resolution 26, and I ask for your support on this, colleagues. There was one person who intended to be here in attendance with us today and could not be. Tim Gregg mentioned it to me this morning. Sheriff Fred Wagner could not come from Park County for a reason that you might guess. Duty calls. And that, of course, takes precedence over coming to this today, and he had to remain in Park County to do what he needed to do. We certainly honor him and those that are under his watch and care in Park County. I noted earlier as the senator from Grand Junction was giving his words in regard to Deputy Gear from Mesa County and the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, how he gave his life only a short 8 weeks ago. It was during that time period, in those couple of weeks, the emotions were raw amongst law enforcement after Deputy Gear's loss of life in the line of duty. I think it was only about 2.5 weeks after that occurred, and the feelings were raw that it was a Wednesday morning, actually right here on the floor, when I started receiving the information on February 24th, actually, of what was occurring up in Bailey in Park County, where several names that are in the resolution today were putting themselves in harm's way. Master Patrol Deputy Colby Martin, Captain Mark Hancock, both of the Park County Sheriff's Office, injured in the line of duty, helping to serve an eviction notice. Seems like such one of the most simple things to do in the line of duty and in the role of the Sheriff's Office, but this was no normal day in Park County. It was on that day, February 24th, 2016, just a mere 37 days ago, colleagues, that Corporal Nate Kerrigan of the Park County Sheriff's Office gave his life in the line of duty, a 13-year veteran with the Sheriff's Office, simply serving an eviction notice, simply doing his duty. He was born on November 7th of 1980 here in Denver, the son of John and Melissa Kerrigan. He was a graduate of Platte Canyon High School, where he still holds the record for the most athletic letters in school history. And if you know small schools, that's quite a feat in any small school to be the one that holds the record for the most letters, because you usually letter 4 years in multiple sports in small schools. So to hold that record is significant. He was the varsity head coach for baseball and the assistant coach for football at Platte Canyon High School for many years. He worked at that school in many positions, the last being the school resource officer. He devoted most of his free time to the community. He graduated from the Highlands Ranch Public Safety Institute, receiving many top honors in 2003.
He worked for 13 years with the Park County Sheriff's Office, served faithfully right up to the moment of his passing, and received many and multiple commendations and awards throughout his career. We honor you, Nate, and all those you served with and who continue to serve on in the Park County Sheriff's Office and in all of law enforcement.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an amendment that I would like to move.
There is an amendment. Mr. Majors, would you please read the amendment?
Amendment L 001, Senate Joint Resolution 26 by Senator Sheffel. Amendment printed in Joint Resolution, page 3, line 25, strike and, page 3, line 26, after the semicolon, insert, and Deputy Sheila Kieran, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. The reason for the amendment was that Deputy Sheila Kieran was injured on Wednesday in Jefferson County, and this is adding her name to the section on page 3, line 26, which is in part of subsection 4, recognizing and honoring those that have been injured in the line of duty. So I'd like to just say a few words about Sheila Kieran and rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 26. The deputy, Sheila Kieran, had one word for the driver who hit her Wednesday night on I-70, and that's furious, and I can't say as I blame her. She said, just to have taken off like that, I guess I really don't understand what would make somebody do that, Kieran said. I think I would stay. I mean, if you make a mistake and there's an accident, I tell my kids all the time, if you do something wrong, own it. Be present, admit it. Admit to what happened and don't take off. Kieran is a Jefferson County deputy who was trying to help victims of a 7-car accident on I-70 near Genesee. She suffered a broken wrist after she says a car came flying by her at conditions too fast for the weather. And I'd like to add in here that more deputies, troopers, and officers are killed and injured by automobile accidents than they are felonious through knife attacks or gun attacks. It's very dangerous working the streets and pulling people over because they are injured and killed by accidents far more. And Kieran went on to say, he, the suspect driver, went between our car and the guardrail. He flew past my partner, and fortunately, he didn't hit our car because she thinks it would have been much worse. The Colorado State Patrol, who investigated the accident, said Deputy Kieran parked her car in the left lane to protect the crime scene. So that means the suspect driver went into the shoulder between the parked car and the guardrail and hit her. As soon as she was struck, she got up almost immediately, and adrenaline was a great thing working in her favor. And she actually saw the vehicle driving off. And then she saw the guy stick his head out the window and was asking if she was okay. So it wasn't like he didn't know he hit her. Then she says that he took off, and she got up and started helping the victims. Officers later arrested the driver involved in the hit and run in Westminster early Thursday morning. Deputy Kieran is a 35 and is a 4-year veteran of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. And this is so typical of law enforcement and typical of all first responders. After she was injured, all she could think about was everyone else's safety. And then she went on to thank the community for their support. It could have been a lot worse, according to Deputy Kieran, and I'm thankful it wasn't. I'm thankful that the other deputy, Jefferson County's had their share of tragedies lately, but thankful that the other deputy that got hit a couple of weeks ago, that he got up and walked away as well. The majority leader mentioned in his opening remarks that first responders all work together, and that's true. It's true. It's a brotherhood, it's a sisterhood. When Deputy Kieran was injured, there's no doubt in my mind, within 15 seconds there were police cars, there were fire trucks, and ambulance, all rushing to the scene to make sure that she was okay and that she was safe. So I want to thank you all as well for everything that you do. Thank you, Mr. President. So I'd like to move L001.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, Amendment 1 is adopted. Is there further discussion on the resolution? Senator Heath.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. Like the majority leader, this is my last opportunity to be with you all, and on behalf of all of your colleagues, Mr. Majority Leader, let me thank you for having the foresight to put this very special day together and to allow us to have really the humbling experience of being with all of these first responders. So thank you very much, and I know this tradition is going to be continued by our colleague from Pueblo, but thank you on behalf of all of us. This is a special day and one that we all look forward to. And it is indeed very humbling to be in all of your presence, and I mean that sincerely. We all have our own personal stories, and you've heard them from many of us, and I'm going to tell personal stories that my colleagues heard me tell not too long ago on another special occasion. And this is not about a life-saving experience in and of itself, but in one sense, but it truly is in another. On March 5th, 1978, my family took me to what was then the airport at Stapleton, when you could actually go and say goodbye to folks. I was leaving for overseas on a business trip, and our 3 kids and my wife came to the gate and actually said goodbye to me and drove home. And when they arrived at our home, the fire trucks were just about to leave. Our house had burnt to the ground. And as my wife tells the story, our little daughter ran out of the car and ran up to a fireman and said, "Please help me. What happened to my canary?" And the firefighter, without even thinking, said, "Little girl, I saw that canary fly out of that window and he is fine." Obviously did not save my daughter's life, but changed her life in a way that you can never, ever imagine, because she still tells that story. It had a profound effect on her life. A simple little story, but one that meant so very much to our family. And now I have the privilege of talking about another father-daughter story. Denver police officer Rachel Ide is here with her father, who I know is very proud of his daughter as well. And her father, Jim Welton, happens to be the retired Adams County Sheriff, which makes this story even more special. On the afternoon of February 22nd, 2016, Rachel Ide, Denver police officer Rachel Ide, responded to a burglary in progress near the intersection of West 37th Avenue and Grove Street in Highlands neighborhood of Denver. At the scene, officers saw 2 suspects. One was arrested and the other took off on foot. As officers gave chase, gunfire was exchanged and Officer Ide was hit in the lower leg near the ankle. She has been on the force for several years and has spent her career, like all of you, helping others. She has an outstanding work record, according to Denver Police Chief Robert White. Her dedication and professionalism are an example to those she works with. She said, "You wouldn't even have to pay me to do this job." Officer Ide joins us in the chamber today, along with her very proud father, Sheriff Jim Welton. Would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam President. I know it's getting a little bit long here this morning, the time. The House is anxious to have you there as well, and they are trying to expedite us. In legislative time, the currency that we deal in, this is some of the greatest expense that comes to us, but in comparison to the commitment, it is worth almost nothing, and we appreciate the commitment that you give to us every day, and an opportunity to honor that. My colleague from Colorado Springs touched on an incident, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it because it's so significant and it drew so much attention. I mean, while I was wondering whether I should even go out and shop on Black Friday and was flipping through the pounds of advertising, we all became transfixed to that incident on November 27th, when a male suspect armed with a rifle began shooting unsuspecting citizens at the Planned Parenthood facility located in Colorado Springs in my colleague's district. As you heard, where he shops, where he goes to the doctor, where he eats. Actually, just around the corner from where my sister lived for years. And during the shooting spree, 3 citizens were shot and killed. Those citizens were Kiari Stewart, Jennifer Markovsky, and University of Colorado Springs police officer. The UCCS officer, Garrett Swayze, was bravely responding to assist on the active shooter call when he was fatally wounded just outside that building. An additional 4 CSPD officers, 1 El Paso County Sheriff's Office deputy, and 3 citizens were shot by the suspect and received serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Over 100 officers responded to assist with the protection of over 300 citizens who were forced to shelter in place for hours until this situation could be resolved. The patrol officers, the detectives, and the tactical units responding bravely risked their lives to protect the citizens of Colorado Springs, and many of us had friends and family that were camped out in that King Soopers and the other businesses around that incident. And we watched, as many of you did, as most of the nation did, and frankly, many people in the world, for hours as the events unfolded before our eyes on television. And as a direct result of the heroic actions of the CSPD and the EPSO first responders, over 20 citizens were rescued from within that facility, and 300 more were safely evacuated from the area. The suspect was contained within the facility, and he surrendered to police after a 5-hour standoff, and I'm sure you watched, like I did, as they were evacuating those people, and the first responders, the paramedics, the firefighters, the police officers, and any volunteer in the area were lending their coats and blankets and things that they could acquire to put over the shoulders of those people that were being evacuated, because I think it was about 10 degrees that morning. It was incredibly cold. Today we are proud to have 4 of the CSPD first responders here in attendance: Tactical Officers Robert Wolf and Dan Carter, Canine Officer John Ford, and Patrol Officer Mike Zamanis. These officers and many more should be recognized for their swift and heroic responses to stop the senseless violence which threatened the safety of our community and to protect the lives of our citizens. Would you stand and honor them with me? Colleagues and officers, would you stand so that we can recognize you? I know we've got 2 here. And over here. Please be seated. You know, a few years ago, I was driving on my normal route to the Capitol. For years and years and years, I stayed in Littleton, so I had about a 15-mile drive in. And one day, I came over that hill on 6th Avenue, coming down to the approach to I-25, and I see cars and red lights, tail lights, and I see a motorcycle in the middle of the 3 or 4 lanes there. And I don't know how I was the first car behind that motorcycle, but it was in the middle of the street, in the middle of the freeway. And I see to the right that someone is being taken care of. Obviously, he was on the motorcycle. He seemed okay. The people in the car seemed okay. But here's a motorcycle. So, you know, I see people coming up behind me quickly, and I'm braking quickly. And I park, and I jump out, and I start to grab that motorcycle and pull it out of the street. And I feel somebody else tugging on that motorcycle. and I look up, and it's Denver Detective John White. And you remember him. He lobbied here for them for years. And so here is Detective White dragging that motorcycle with me, and we're watching cars just speeding by like we are just an inconvenience to them. And you remember his big smile, and he says, yeah, it's sort of like this every day. And I thought about what the good senator from Aurora said about all of those unrecognized acts, those unheralded acts that you perform every day that aren't going to get in this resolution, that aren't going to get noticed, that aren't going to get recognized, and aren't going to be rewarded. And so it's important that we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think it's also important that we say thank you for the risk that you put yourselves before, because we also know that you will be on one of these resolutions in the future. That is an absolute certainty, and it is horrible to admit. And we have other resolutions here that memorialize the service of those who are fallen. And I'm sorry to say that I know somebody in this room is going to end up on there at some point. And may God help you, and may God bless your family. You mean a lot to us. Actually, you mean the world to me. I've been in this building 16 years. For the last 5 years, I've been virtually away from my family year-round. I live in Colorado Springs. When something happens at my house, I can't just run home. When something happens in my neighborhood, I can't just run home and take care of my family. When something happens at my son's school, I can't just get there. But you can, and you do. That means a lot to someone who can't. Let me share with you what I got yesterday from my house. Last night, 6:03 p.m., from my wife. We had a SWAT team and lots of cops 2 blocks north at Iron Horse and Sodbuster. The whole block is cordoned off. You know what that's like to get a text message like that? You know what that's like. But do you know what that's like when you can't get home? I've known what that's like for 5 years, but I am incredibly grateful that when I can't get home to take care of my family, that I know you are going to my neighborhood to take care of my family. I do have an exception to this. Perhaps I should offer an amendment. That we, the members of the Colorado General Assembly, designate September 27th as First Responder Appreciation Day. Every day is First Responder Day. If you only picked one, God help us. Thank God for 365 days. And the bonus this year was 366 days. Every day should be First Responder Appreciation Day. It certainly is for us. We thank you for being here.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, thank you for your patience and attention this morning. First responders, I hope in some small measure you feel loved and appreciated today. We have honored many of you individually. It's important that we honor all of the first responders that are here today. When this first started, we used to read you all by name. We can't do that anymore because there's too many of you here. There's close to 150 people in the building today who participated in the breakfast and are seated on the floor in the gallery. The good senator from Pueblo and myself are going to read your organizations. As we do so, we'd ask you to stand so that we can applaud you in unison at the close of that. Please listen for your particular group. Adams County 911, Alpine Rescue Team, AMR, Colorado Springs, El Paso County, AMR, Denver, Arapahoe County, ARES, Aurora Fire, Cascade Training Center, Castle Rock Fire and Rescue Department, Castle Rock Police Department, Colorado 911 Resource Center, Colorado American College of Emergency Physicians, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control, Colorado River Fire Rescue, Colorado SAR Board, Colorado Springs Fire Department, Colorado Springs Police Department, Colorado State Patrol, Cunningham Fire Protection District, Custer County Sheriff, Denver Fire Department, Denver Police Department,
Denver Sheriff Department, Denver Transit Police, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Elizabeth Fire and Rescue, EMS Association of Colorado, Evergreen Fire Rescue, Fire Academy at Wharton Tech, Fort Collins Police, Golden Police Fire EMS, Grant County EMS and OEM, Grant County Search and Rescue, Grand County Police Department, Inner Canyon Fire Police Department, Lyman Ambulance Service, Lakewood Police Department, OMEGA and RRVC RMC, Plains and Peak RETAC, Pueblo Canyon AMR, Pueblo City Fire, Rampart Search and Rescue, Rock Creek Volunteer Fire Department, Rocky Vista University College, Search and Rescue Dogs of the United States, South Metro Fire Rescue Authority, Teller County Sheriff Office, Ute Pass Regional Ambulance District, Washington Yuma County 911, West Metro Fire Protection District, West Safety Services, and Colorado Professional Firefighters.
First responders in the gallery and on the floor, please stand so that we can honor you.
Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'll be brief. I want to thank all of the first responders for joining us. I especially want to thank my colleague, the Senator from Parker, for your advocacy in this work, and look forward to carrying it on and remembering all the importance. As President Cadman said, we really need to be recognizing you 365 days a year. We recognize your service to this great state, and we thank you for joining us.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you again, the good Senator from Pueblo. It's an honor to work with you, and really, colleagues, to work with all of you. As you can tell by the participation, those that are here and listening, you don't do anything in this building by yourself. We are all honoring first responders together. And so this will end, as we conclude the honoring of first responders 2016 will end where we began, with a simple thank you. Thank you for being there when we can't. Thank you for charging into the building while we're charging out. Thank you for taking care of the people that we hold dear. As a good senator from Denver said, we repeat ourselves here a lot. And we sort of feel strange about that, and then we realize that we are wearing badges that are much bigger than ourselves. We work in a building that is a whole lot bigger than ourselves, and we serve a function that goes beyond us. It's what we stand for. It's the institution of the Colorado State Senate. And so, like all of us, we honor first responders, and we are flooded with the memories. For me, it's the memory of being on a state highway and being in a situation with a broke-down car and boat trailer. It's hanging out into the highway, and I'm thinking to myself, there's going to be a horrific accident here. So it's a phone call to State Patrol. And I cannot tell you, and I speak on behalf of all of us, the relief that came when I saw those lights pull up and flash, and the trooper got out and said, I got this. I'm here to help. It was the story of a young father who thought he'd messed up pretty badly when his young son took a Superman leap off the bed. He didn't seem like he was breathing to me, and I was on 911, so thank you, dispatchers, for talking me down. He just knocked the wind out of himself, but you were there. Everything okay? Should we come? Are you sure? Check again while we wait on the line. And just recently, I found a photograph that I'd long since forgotten about. It's a picture of me early on in my first term here, and I'm in full fire gear. I've got the tank on my back, the helmet on, and my young son is clinging to my leg, along with a daughter on the other one. They both don't come up past my knee. My son is now 6'3.5". Just ask him, that half is really important. But they were tearful because they thought something was happening to me. I was down at a training facility down in Douglas County where they have one of those buildings that you can set on fire. It never burns down. And I remember vividly that day wondering, should I go do this? Should I not? And I can still hear the words of the volunteer firefighter down there when I decided to put on this gear and do it. I remember him saying the words, "Light it up. He wants to go in." I didn't do it alone. Went with a firefighter who said, "Stay close, keep your hand on my shoulder, I will guide you." We got in that building, and he said, "Follow me, we're looking for a baby doll. It's in a bathtub on the second floor." And I remember as the smoke began to pour in and the temperature began to go up, and I was really glad I had that outfit on, and I couldn't breathe anymore, so I was really glad I had that mask and tank on. He said, "We're going to have to go down to our knees, stay close and hang on to me." And he guided me through that, and I saw, can't imagine what you guys go through, but I experienced some small measure of it. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. And as I say these words, every one of the people in this building, time prevents it, but could get up and tell similar stories. And so we will end where we began, with a simple thank you. Thank you for being who you are, for doing what you do, and for allowing us in some small measure to take time today to honor you. There's nobody in this building, in this floor today, who's not more sensitive of the time than I am. I got a calendar over there sitting that's gathering dust. But today, this resolution is the most important thing we're doing. So I thank you again. With that, Mr. President, I renew motion for Senate Joint Resolution 26, I believe it is. Ask for your support, colleagues, and ask for a roll call vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 26. And for all of those who are joining us and those that you represent, we will vote on this resolution on your behalf. And for those who you represent that will never join us in this chamber, who gave everything in the service that you continue to perform, we will have a roll call vote, and we will ring the Senate chimes. Mr. Majors, would you please call the roll?
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar, aye. Baumgardner. Baumgardner, aye. Carroll. Carroll, aye. Cook. Cook, aye. Crowder. Crowder, aye. Donovan. Donovan, aye. Garcia. Garcia, aye. Grantham. Grantham, aye. Guzman.
Excused.
Heath. Heath, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Hodge. Hodge, aye. Holbert. Holbert, aye. John. John, aye. Johnston. Johnston, aye. Jones. Jones, aye. Kafalis. Kafalis, aye. Kerr. Kerr, aye. Lambert. Lambert, aye. Lundberg. Lundberg, aye. Marble. Marble, aye. Martinez-Humenick. Martinez-Humenick, aye. Merrifield. Merrifield, aye. Neville. Neville, aye. Newell.
Excused.
Roberts. Roberts, aye. Sheffel. Sheffel, aye. Scott. Scott, aye. Sonnenberg. Sonnenberg, aye. Stedman. Stedman, aye. Tate. Tate, aye. Todd. Todd, aye. Ulibarri.
Excused.
Woods. Woods, aye. Mr. President.
Aye.
Mr. President, aye.
With 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 26 is adopted. Majority Leader Sheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request that the morning roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Without objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors. Would all our first responders and our families of first responders please stand one more time so that we can recognize you? Colleagues, please join me. Colleagues, we will stand in a brief recess so that we can greet and welcome our special guests and then bid them adieu to the House. Senate will be in recess. The Senate will come back to order. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move a call of the Senate.
A call of the Senate has been moved. It has been sustained. Sergeants, would you please secure the doors, retrieve the senators. Mr. Majors, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar. Baumgartner. Carroll. Cook. Crowder. Donovan. Garcia. Grantham. Guzman.
Excused.
Heath. Hill. Hill. Hodge. Holbert. John. Johnston. Jones. Kafalas. Kerr. Lambert. Lundberg. Marble. Martinez-Humenick. Merrifield. Neville. Newell. Roberts. Scheffel. Scott. Sonnenberg. Edmund. Tate. Todd. Buehlerberry.
Excused.
Woods. Aguilar. Mr. President.
Here. How about somebody raising that call? Senator John. Please raise the call. Senator John.
Somebody has to do it.
Senator John.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the call be raised.
Without objection, the call will be raised. Colleagues, just a point of business I want to share with you. We are adding a amendment in the House to the memorial or the resolution that we just passed. So it will come back. We will hold on to it so that when we are all present, we can all be recorded as a yes vote if that's what you choose on Monday. Moving on. Message from the House.
April 1st, 2016, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted the advisory statutes. House Bills 1377, 1406, 1409, 1413, 1417, 1418, 1419, 1379, 1309, 1101 is amended, 1354 is amended, 1405 is amended, 1407 is amended, 1408 is amended, 1410 is amended, 1411 is amended, 1414 is amended, 1415 is amended, 1416 is amended, 1048 is amended, 1336 is amended, 1337 is amended, and 1335 is amended. That is voted to concur in Senate amendments to House Bills 1258, 1316, 1255, 1198, 1224, 1262, 1263, 1264, and is repassed the bills as so amended. The House has adopted and transmits herewith House Joint Resolution 1011. The House has adopted and returns herewith Senate Joint Resolution 20. The House has adopted and returns herewith Senate Joint Resolution 2.
Message from the reviser.
April 1st, 2016, we herewith transmit without comment House Bills 1309, 1377, 1379, 1406, 1409, 1413, 1417, 1418, and 1419. Without comment as amended, House Bills 1048, 1101, 1335, 1336, 1337, 1354, 1405, 1407, 1408, 1410, 1411, 1414, 1415, and 1416.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title of all the bills on the third reading of bills, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Roberts, Representative Brown, concerning the ability of a political subdivision from an adjoining state to jointly operate an airport of Colorado. Senate Bill 171 by Senators Martinez, Domenico, Sheffield, and Representative Tyler, concerning modification and clarification of the statutes pertaining to the new Energy Improvement District. House Bill 1060 by Representative Tyler and Senator Baumgartner, concerning roadside memorials for fallen state patrol officers. Senate Bill 166 by Senator Woods and Representative Kagan, concerning the creation of transportation fuel distributors tax liens. House Bill 1306 by Representative Williams, Senator Holberg, concerning revision of the state statutes governing mortgage loan originators to conform more closely to applicable federal law and in connection therewith amending, relocating, and repealing provisions in accordance with the Federal Secure and Fair Enforcement for Mortgage Licensing Act of 2008. House Bill 1109 by Representatives Becker J. and Becker K. and Senator Sonnenberg and Donovan, concerning limits of the basic tenets of Colorado water law placed on the ability of certain federal agencies to impose conditions on a water right owner in exchange for permission to use federal land.
Majority Leader Sheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adopt all the bills listed on the third reading of bills for final passage consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 168, Senate Bill 171, House Bill 1060, Senate Bill 166, House Bill 1306, and House Bill 1109.
Is there further discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? With 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 168 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Heath, Senator Kafalis, with 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 171 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Johnson, Senator Kafalis, Senator Donovan, Senator Kerr, with 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1060 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Scott, Senator Roberts, Senator Todd, Senator Kafalis, Majority Leader Sheffel, Senator Heath, Senator Woods, Senator Neville, Senator Kerr, Senator Crowder, Senator Lambert, Senator Cook, Senator Grantham, Senator Lundberg, Senator Marble, Senator Tate, Senator Garcia, Senator Merrifield, Senator Sonnenberg, please add the President, and Senator Martinez-Huminick. With 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 166 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Scott, Senator Tate, Majority Leader Sheffel, Senator Baumgartner, Senator Lundberg, with 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1306 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Woods, Senator Scott, 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused. House Bill 1109 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Woods, Senator Roberts, Senator Neville, Senator Newell, Senator Todd, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Scott, Senator Cook, Senator Lambert, Senator Johnston, third reading of the bills, final passage. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1323?
House Bill 1323 by Representative Kraft, Harper, Senator Cook, concerning changing the name of the Division of Labor to the Division of Labor Standards and Statistics.
A request has been made that the bill be read at length. That has been rescinded. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1323 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1323 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones. And Senator Jones. 32 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 2 excused. House Bill 1323 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Newell, Senator Heath, Senator Martinez Humenick, Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1088?
House Bill 1088 by Representative Dorr and Senator Roberts, concerning the authorization for a fire protection district to impose an impact fee on new development in connection therewith enacting the Public Safety Fairness Act.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1088 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1088 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Marble, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Woods, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Neville, Senator Holbert, no votes on House Bill 1088. Senator Martinez Humenick. With 24 ayes, 9 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1088 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Heath, Senator Jones, Senator Newell, Senator Hodge, Senator Aguilar, Senator Merrifield, Senator Todd, Senator Kafalis, Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1005?
House Bill 1005 by Representatives Esgar and Danielson and Senator Merrifield, concerning the use of rain barrels to collect precipitation from a residential rooftop for non-potable outdoor use.
Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I may be all I thought this would be a barrel of laughs, so I'm very happy to move at this moment. I move House Bill 1005 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1005 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Scott, Senator Lambert, Senator Marble, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Grantham, Senator Martinez-Humanic, with 27 ayes, 6 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1005 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Carroll, Senator Johnston, Senator Aguilar, Senator Roberts, I got time. It's Friday. I'm not going home till tomorrow. I can't hear your votes or your co-sponsorships. There's still one. It helps us wait. Anybody have a plane to catch? Does anybody have lunch plans? It's no joke. Senator Jones, Senator Heath, Senator Kafalis, Senator Stedman, Senator Newell, Senator Kerr, Senator Todd, Senator Garcia. Co-sponsors: Senator Hill. Co-sponsors: Senator Donovan, Senator John, Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side of House Bill 1005, would move for reconsideration.
The motion is for a reconsideration of House Bill 1005. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. That motion fails. Consideration of governor's appointments, consent calendar. Now, who's the joke on? Mr. Majors, would you please read all of the governor's appointments on the governor's appointments consent calendar?
Members of the Financial Services Board for term expired July 1st, 2019, Rainey Lorraine Leathoen of Denver, Colorado, serves as an executive officer of a state credit union and as a Democrat reappointed. Gerard Allen Agnes of Boulder, Colorado, serves as an executive officer of a state credit union and as a Republican appointed. Member of the Public Employees Retirement Benefits Plan for term expiring July 10, 2016. Roger P. Johnson of Denver, Colorado, serves as representative with experience and competence in investment management, finance, banking, economics, accounting, pension administration, or actuarial analysis, and as a Republican, and occasioned by the resignation of Benjamin H. Foote or Kaplan of Denver, Colorado, appointed.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate confirm the governor's appointments detailed on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, which includes members of the Financial Services Board and a member of the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans.
Is there further discussion on any of the appointments on the governor's appointments consent calendar? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, Rainey Lorraine Leah Thoen and Gerald Allen Agnes are appointed as members of the Financial Services Board. With 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused, Roger P. Johnson is appointed as a member of the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans. Message from the Governor.
March 31st, 2016, Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the passage, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following Act, Senate Bill 121, concerning the percentage of tuition revenue that an institution of higher education is authorized to pledge for contracts for the advancement of money. Approved March 31st, 2016 at 2:42 p.m. Sincerely, John W. Hickenlooper, Governor.
Committee reports.
March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy is that under consideration is that a hearing on the following appointments recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado State Fair Authority Board of Commissioners for a term expiring November 1st, 2018, Rosemary E. Del Monte of Aurora, Colorado, a Democrat from the 6th Congressional District appointed. For terms expiring November 1st, 2019, Rebecca Ann Brooks of Denver, Colorado, a Democrat from the 1st Congressional District and a member of substantial experience in agriculture or in the activities of 4-H clubs appointed. Ronnie Raymond Farmer of Lamar, Colorado, Republican from the 4th Congressional District and a member who is a certified public accountant appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy is that under consideration is that a hearing on following appointments recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the State Board of Stock Inspection Commissioners for term expiring May 1st, 2019, Corey Allen Kessinger of Akron, Colorado, serves as a representative from the confinement cattle industry appointed. David H. Mendenhall of Rocky Ford, Colorado, serves as a representative from the non-confinement cattle industry appointed. March 31st, 2016, Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy is that under consideration as that a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the State Agricultural Commission for term expiring March 1st, 2019, Joanne Marilyn Stanko of Steamboat Springs, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and an at-large member reappointed. Alvin Kunuji of Blanca, Colorado, serves as a Democrat and an at-large member reappointed. Segunda S. Diaz of Alamosa, Colorado, serves as an unaffiliated and Agricultural District 3 member reappointed. Brant A. Harrison of Palisade, Colorado, serves as a Republican from the 4th Agricultural District appointed. Susan K. Petrocco of Brighton, Colorado, serves as a Democrat from the 1st Agricultural District appointed. March 31st, 2016, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends following. Senate Bill 174 be amended as follows and as so amended before the Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation.
Signing of bills.
March 31st, 2016, the President signed House Bill 1353.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, with feeling, colleagues, move for the, having voted on the prevailing side, move for immediate reconsideration of House Bill 1005, noting that this does require unanimous consent.
The motion before the body is the reconsideration of House Bill 1005. This being the second request or motion on this, having failed the first time. This requires a unanimous consent. This is about relationships. Do you have them? And it's the 1st of April. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Wow. A roll call has been requested. Okay, let's pretend this is April 2nd. Mr. Majors, please poll the senators.
Senators Aguilar, aye. Baumgardner, aye. Carroll, aye. Cook, aye. Crowder, aye. Donovan, aye. Garcia, aye. Grantham, aye. Guzman,
Excused.
Heath, aye. Hill, aye. Hodge, aye. Holbert, aye. John, aye. Johnston, aye. Jones, aye. Kafalis, aye. Kerr, aye. Lambert, aye. Lundberg, aye. Marble, aye. Martinez Jimenez, aye. Merrifield, aye. Neville, aye. Newell, aye. Roberts, aye. Scheffel, aye. Scott, aye. Sonnenberg, aye. Stedman, aye. Tate, aye. Todd, aye. Ulibarri, Woods, aye. Mr. President.
Aye.
Mr. President, aye.
33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 2 excused. That motion is adopted unanimously. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to House Bill 1005?
House Bill 1005 by Representatives Asgar and Danielson and Senator Merrifield concerning the use of rain barrels to collect precipitation from a residential rooftop for non-potable outdoor use.
Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1005 on third reading and final passage, and once again ask for your aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1005. Are there any no votes? Senator Baumgardner, Senator Grantham, Senator Lambert, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Marble, Senator Scott, no votes on House Bill 1005. With 27 ayes, 6 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1005 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Roberts. No, if you've already co-sponsored it, you still are on it. Following change in bill sponsorship will occur. Representative Jay Baker will be added as co-prime sponsor with Senators Martinez Huminick and Scheffel and Representative Tyler on Senate Bill 171. Announcements. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. There will be an approps meeting on Monday at 1:30 that will include House Bills 1405, 1409, 1416, 1417, 1419, 1407, 1408, 1411, 1414, 1415, 1418, 1406, 1410, and 1413, which comprises the long bill and the orbital bills thereto.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, that concludes our work for the day. We are going to keep the desk open to read over all the bills and some others. Belay that conclusion.
Are there further announcements before we recess? Senator Lambert.
Thank you. Speaking for the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bills 111 and 56 will not be heard in Senate Judiciary Committee on Monday.
Further announcements?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess to 1 p.m. Run for your life.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will recess until 1 p.m. Have a great weekend.